Hello wow, it is loud outside today. Like the second I hit record, all the noise. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today I wanted to share with you guys all the books that I read this summer. Did I complete my summer reading list? Well, let's find out because, spoiler, I did not. So much things in the way. Alright. We are way too low. That was supposed to be some aesthetic B-roll of me grabbing all my books. It was not. This video is going great. Alright. I have coffee. I have books. I'm trying to keep them in order. So we're just going to get right into it. I'm going to find my reading journal so I can show you guys. In like May, I did a video on my summer reading list, so you guys can check that out if you want to. I read 11 books this summer. That's not a lot. But books that I read that were on my summer reading list, that's not much. But let's go through all the books that I did read this summer. So this was my page that I did for my summer reading list, and I was filling them in as I read them, and yeah. Alright, we're back. Had some things. I don't even remember what I was saying. I think I showed you guys my book. One thing I do want to say is I did enjoy all these books that I did read. I read quite a few good ones and some like books that are like new, or authors that are new favorites for me, so that's exciting. Let's start with the first book that I read. Some of these books that I did read are not even on my list because I, have a book buying issue or a book buying problem, Book buying is a separate hobby aside from reading. So also, I will say, if I was reading these books on ebooks, I would have read so much more. Reading ebooks are so much easier for me. But this year I try to challenge myself to read more physical books, and it's been very hard. The first book that I read is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren, and I really, really like this book. I think I read it in less than 2 days, and because I liked it so much, I read On Honeymooners by Christina Lauren because I really liked the writing. So I just read, that's not safe. So I picked up, I didn't pick it up, I had it. I read On Honeymooners by Christina Lauren because I enjoyed Soulmate Equation so much. So the Soulmate Equation is about River Pena, and like a group of people created this, DNA testing that will help you find, it's almost like online dating but with DNA testing. So they will test your DNA and find you your perfect soul match, and he ends up matching with a single mother, and it's just their journey, and I really liked it. But I really did enjoy this writing. I liked how quick paced it was, and also even though it did have some spicy content in it, it was not overbearing. There were very short scenes, so I like to just skim through so that way so I don't need all that. So it was like a page and a half. You just flip the page and continue on reading. So that's something I really did enjoy. The On Honeymooners is about a girl whose sister and the whole wedding gets food poisoning at the wedding. So her and the best man go on the honeymoon and pretend to date. They have history too. So that was a really good book. This one does have a little bit more spice, but there's the way that these authors write, the scenes are very short, so it's not like you're skipping complete chapters. So that's something I did enjoy, because I feel like some books nowadays, what is the category that they're calling some of these books now, smut books? No, I'm not about that. So I'm actually been enjoying reading. I think a few years ago I wouldn't have cared about anything, honestly, I just read whatever. And as the years have gone on, as I've grown in my faith, I am more cautious about what I read. And I just figured, as I tell you guys about books that I'm reading or whatever, that I would let you guys know whether there's spice, whether there's not, whether it's closed doors, whether there's nothing at all. Just give you guys the details. So yeah, so I do like her writing, because even though there is a little bit of spice in it, it's not like overbearing. You don't need it for the story at all. And you can easily just flip a page or two and you're good. The next book I read is The Temporary Roomie by Sarah Adams. I like the storyline of this book. I liked everything that happened. I just felt like the dialogue between the two main characters was a little immature. Not sure if that's just this book or what. But that was just my opinion. It could have just been this book. It could have just been the space I was in, because I had just finished reading these two books that I really, really liked. And this was definitely a different type of writing. So I do want to try more books from her, because this was a clean book. I want to say there was no spicy scenes at all. Very little like sexual tension type of stuff, I want to say. But I do remember that there was no spicy scenes. So I really did enjoy that. So I do want to pick up more from this author. So maybe she's just an author that writes with a more younger audience. Yeah. The next book I read was... Oh, I didn't even tell you what this book was about. Failing. It's about a girl who obviously is pregnant, and she needs temporary housing. So she moves in with her best friend's brother, because he has the room. He is a doctor. He's barely home, and they don't like each other. Or does he? They don't like each other. There's a lot of like bickering and bantering. I know a lot of people don't like that. I didn't mind the bantering. I don't mind banter and like bickering in books when it's funny and it's not like destructive. I feel like there are books out there where it's very toxic, and it's like more like, oh, we're practical jokes, things like that. They're not taking it too far. So I did like that. The next book I read was Wait for It by Jen McKinley. But it's about a woman who moves... I don't even remember where she moved to. She moved somewhere where her best friend and her best friend and the husband have a job or a business, and she takes up a position with them, being, I want to say, their marketing designer or something, creative director. And where they found her a place to stay, was supposed to be temporary, is on someone's property. He's got money, he's got a big house, but he is also healing from a stroke. Wow, I cannot remember. Like, I remember it, but I don't. And he's very grumpy. It's very grumpy, sunshine vibes. So she lives on his property, and he has sets of rules, and she breaks all the rules. So that's the fun part. I really like this book. It's very like change your life type of book, if that makes sense. Like, she had a whole career, not a true career change, but you know, she upped and moved her life, and I think it worked out. So I did enjoy this book. The next book I read was Love at First Bite by Anna E. Collins. It's about a girl who finds out her boyfriend or fiance, like they were about to get married. They had bought this house, or whatever. Finds out he's cheating on her. So she buys the house next to him to be spiteful and just like put everything and do everything to this house that he hates, just kind of like to be spiteful about it. And she has one of her coworkers help her with the house, and it's about them two falling in love. It was a good book. Definitely a little bit more not younger, like the writing style was definitely a little bit more younger, less serious, which I didn't mind. It wasn't younger in a bad way, just more like playful and silly. And I didn't feel like everything was crazy in this. I didn't feel like, oh no, was there spice? I want to say this was Closed Door. Why can't I remember? There's a possibility that there was a little bit of spice. I want to say it was Closed Door if there was, but I really can't remember now. The next book. This pile is getting high. The next book I read was Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and I thoroughly enjoyed this book. One of my favorites so far this year that I've read, and it was so simple. It's just about two people that love writing. Wow, I can't remember. Not love writing. Wow. Literary agent. He is a writer, if I believe. Or are they both literary agents? He's an editor. So she's a literary agent. He's an editor. They both end up in the same small town. Things happen. It's really, really good. She's supposed to be on like a sister vacation with her sister to the small town. from one of her authors that wrote a book based on a small town. So it's really good. There is a little bit of spice in this. There's not a ton of it, but you definitely know when it's happening, and there's a lot of like, when I say, you know when it's happening, so you can just be like, couple pages, just flip like a page or two, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm good. So that was this book. Really enjoyed it. Like I said, one of my favorites this year. I would reread again. I think at the end of this year, I'm going to unhaul a lot of books that I don't really want to keep, and I will be keeping this one in physical form because I enjoyed it that much. The next book I read was Beach Read by Emily Henry, and this was a much slower read. I'm happy I read this one after reading Book Lovers, because I think if I read this one first, I probably wouldn't have picked up Book Lovers, because this was a lot slower. There was a little bit more of like sexual tension throughout this book, and there was more. I feel like there was more spice in this one and more sexual tension. Easily skipping over, like you can do that too, because they're not like drawn out. Like there's just some other books where I had started reading and I was just like, why? And like you're skipping whole chapters, and at that point, like if I gotta skip whole chapters, I'm not gonna read the book. What was I saying? It's about two authors. They're in the beach houses next to each other, and they develop a kind of like a friendship relationship. You know, whatever. They both challenge each other to write each other's genre. So that is the premise of this book, and I really enjoyed it. It was much more serious out of all the books that I've read so far. But it was really good. I did like it. I need to grab some other books. Okay, let's quickly talk about some of the books that I DNF'd this summer before I continue on with the rest. So here we have Just Haven't Met You Yet, and this was it was just very slow. I got 62 pages in and I could not finish it. It wasn't bad, it was just very, very slow, and I felt like it was dragging on and not much happened. So I will hopefully continue this at another time. If not, it's okay. But I had to tell myself it was okay to DNF because it was just going too slow. The next book can I really even say I DNF this? I only read one chapter, so it was only 18 pages. I just haven't really had the desire to pick this back up, but I did start this summer, and it seemed decent, but I just haven't had the desire to pick this back up. So it's one of the books that I just never read. And then Summer Job by Lizzie Dent. I got 40 pages into it and I just couldn't get into it. I might try again, I might not, I'm not sure. It was a little faster pace, but I wasn't enjoying it's kind of like dual timeline. There's just little things about it that I wasn't enjoying, so we'll see. Now back to the rest of the books that I was reading. So I finished the book Pray Confidently and Consistently by Valerie Warner. I would suggest this to anyone who is struggling in their prayer life, struggling in really anything. Even though this book is mainly about prayer, I think she touches on a lot of different things that hinder us from our prayer. That can be just reading your Bible, struggling with different things, struggling with pride, struggling with control. Alrighty, the battery died. We're back. I was talking about this, saying that it's good for you even if you're not just struggling with prayer, if you're struggling with pride, if you're struggling with trust, surrendering, reading your Bible, just every little thing. She touches on so much, and it's such an easy read. Like, I have so many different tabs. I just thought this book was great. I want to reread it. Obviously not right now because I just read it, but definitely a reread for sure. The next book I read was Meet Me in the Margins by Melissa Ferguson, and it was an excellent book. I really enjoyed it. I have a reading blog with this one and The Do-Over. Really enjoyed both of them. I really enjoyed this one. They are clean romances written by Christian authors. She is an author. She's an editor, works at a publishing house. She is also an author and writes a book. And her manuscript, someone finds it, edits like some of it, and she's all like, oh my goodness, why would you do this? And then she sends the manuscript as it is, without those edits, to her editor, and her editor's kind of like, hey, I'm retiring. You need to get this to a position where I can bring it before everyone else. But I think it needs this and this and this type of changes, which are the same changes her mystery editor had. So basically it's just about that. also her falling in love. But I think it's a great book because it was clean, it was funny, and it wasn't slow paced at all. It was pretty fast paced. I thought she was relatable. Her family dynamic was odd, but that gets, things happen. So I really enjoyed this book. I cannot wait to read more from this author. She has a Christmas book, like with other people, coming out this winter, and then she has a book coming out next year, and I also just picked up one of her books when I was in Texas, so I'm super excited to read more from this author because I really did enjoy it. The other book is The Do-Over by Bethany Turner, and this book was awesome too. I laughed so much. Clean romance. I think there's a couple of kissing, there's some kissing in it, but that's about it. I thought it was really good. It's about a woman who is accused of a crime at her job in New York. She's a lawyer, so she comes back home, doesn't really tell anyone what's going on, and then she is not reunited. She reacquainted with someone from high school that she was friends with, and the story goes from there. I thought it was really good, really funny. I really liked the realisticness of the book and of the characters and just who they are and just everything about it. I think it's a great book. For one, it was funny. I literally was laughing out loud most of the time, and I just liked how their family issues or whatever got resolved. So I really did enjoy this book so much, and I can't wait to read more from this author too. The next book is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. She is the author of The Love Hypothesis. Very similar concept. They are both scientists. They are having to work on this program together. They met previously, things like that. But I thought it was really good. There is spicy scenes in here, so you just gotta skip. There's really not a ton of them. And you can just easily skip through because it's not drawn out. Something I noticed about this author is that when she writes, you kind of know what her world views are just by reading her books. You don't know really what they stand for the most part, because it's just here's a story. This one, sometimes it feels like there are political statements being made, especially with this one. I felt like this one more had that than the other one. I don't know why I'm trying to beat around the bush. There's a strong feminist storyline in the book, but I enjoyed it. I like her writing. I do like the stories she tells, so I did enjoy the book. I'm just warning, if you decide to read this, there's a strong feminist plot line to this. The last book that I'm still currently in the middle of, it's taking me a little bit longer to read. It's Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I didn't really know anything going into it. I've heard people talk about it all the time and talk about how amazing it is, and I think it's good. It's more serious and slow paced than the other two books that I've read from her, The Soulmate Equation and The Unhoneymooners. Unhoneymooners was hilarious. It's a funny book. But yeah, this one's definitely more slow paced. It's dual timeline, so every chapter goes back and forth between the timeline. So that's that, and it's just interesting. It's a different type of romance that I've read before, so they're all kind of the same, but you know what I mean. This one's different. I am enjoying it. It's just taking me longer to read because it is a slower paced book. It's not a rush in, we fall in love and blah. It's more of a I don't know, but I'm still reading it. I'm really enjoying it. I'm including in this book because I'm reading it and it was on my list and I never got to it. So that is that. I gotta end this here because we are a mess. This is too bright. I need to get this edited. Wow. Do you hear her? But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what your favorite book was that you read this summer. And yeah, so I'll see you guys in my next one.